Hi, I'm Denny Unger, creative director at Cloudhead Games, and we're working on the Gallery, which is a launch title on the HTC Vive, and we'll eventually port that over to Oculus and Morpheus. I wanted to talk to you today about our Locomotion system called Blink. It's our solution for a completely 100% nausea-free VR locomotion movement system for first-person experiences. So I say zero nausea because obviously if we want VR to gain wide acceptance in the general public, they can't have an experience that generates any kind of nausea. And as we all know, any kind of vection or artificial movement that's created in VR that your ear isn't also doing with physical motions that your body is actually tracking, it's going to create problems. So as designers, we have to come up with new systems to help translate your motions through a virtual space without causing sickness. So Blink is our solution to that, and essentially it breaks down into three primary systems. There's the cinematic blink mode, which is simply, it's a lot like blinking, funny enough. So you look where you want to go, you push one button, and then you are basically transported to that new location. The second system is precision blink, and what that allows you to do is basically project your destination point. It's a visual representation of where you're going to be in 3D space, and it actually shows your current orientation. So if you're facing in one direction, you're looking in one direction, when you project that, you'll see kind of where you're going to be and where you're going to be facing. And then the third system is volume blink, which is essentially taking those other two systems and adding another layer of complexity on it so you can actually position your exact volume, the amount of room that you have to move around in, deeper into 3D space. You can position it, rotate it, and get a very precise kind of alignment on where you're going to position your volume. So on top of having a system that's nausea-free, we also have to account for users who have variable play spaces. So we actually call it elastic play space, because you might just have this area in front of your desk to play in, or you might have a carpet in front of your TV, or you might have a whole garage or a warehouse. The system that we created has to scale to account for every conceivable seated, non-seated kind of VR experience. We're obviously building towards a standing VR experience, but you can literally stand right in front of your desk and play our game and get the same kind of fidelity that you would get from a larger room. So we allow the system to scale dynamically to account for all of those different spaces. Another system we created is called bounds persistence. So one of the things we realized when we had access to like a full volume that people could actually walk around in is one of the ways you actually make people move around in a compelling and freeing way is you have to show them their bounds, and you have to do so by allowing bounds persistence at all times so that a user feels really comfortable in their space when they're moving around. And so they just have a real general sense of what's safe to do and where they can go within that volume. But the real key thing with presenting that is to keep it kind of out of your face. You don't want to see your bounds all the time. But so how do you kind of come to terms with those two conflicting ideas? Well, you treat your bounds by placing them much lower on the ground. They're only like 1.5 feet high, and they kind of just blend in with the environment around you. And they're subtly fading in and out over time. We've also got a proximity bound system so that as you approach any edge of your boundary, it'll grow in intensity, which helps you with your bounds awareness again. But conversely, when you're looking in the opposite direction, you'll see that your bounds kind of fade away, so that they're just simply not getting in your space. Once we had all these systems in place, we had to think about, well, how do we leverage what the system is really doing when positioning you ideally in the scene? So level design was really kind of built around this system in an interesting way to make every area that you visit special and interesting. We used something called blink hotspots, where if we have kind of a known commodity that we want the user to visit, and they blink there, we'll kind of place them in the idealized position. That doesn't mean that that's exactly where they have to go, but we as designers, it kind of gives us that freedom to position them in an ideal, fun location. So one of the consequences of having this really robust system where a user could potentially walk through geometry is you have to come up with logical solutions to those problems. So what we came up with was a system that essentially, it'll help the player get back on track by teleporting them back to their original location. So if they walk through a cave wall, for example, which is actually something you don't really want to do in room scale, you're kind of compelled not to do it. But if you do it, if you're trying to cheat, or if you accidentally clip through geo, what we do is we create a very dense blur, so you still have some kind of spatial awareness of shapes very vaguely, and it gives you the opportunity to kind of dip into geo and then dip back out, and then things will kind of fade off to darkness if you're in the geo for too long. And if you stay in for an extended period of time, we'll actually just reset you and bring you back to an idealized location in the game world. We've bundled a fairly dense amount of navigation control into a single button. We're quite proud of that because what it means is in the game, all you really have to worry about is grabbing things and using one button to locomote. And we stack layers of complexity on deeper into that one button system by using different tricks, by holding times and rotating your thumb around the gamepad, different things to bring up additional layers of complexity. But at the end of the day, what it means is that your mom or your dad or your young son can pick up the game and play quite easily. So I'm excited to announce that the gallery is actually 4 episodes, it's 4 chapters, and the first being the gallery Call of the Starseed. And we're going to be revealing that at PAX on August 28th to the 31st. And it will really give you your first opportunity to come down and try all these different systems and actually experience a fun game in VR. And fun is really, at the end of the day, that's what we're striving for. As much as we've tried to build these systems that are, compelling and very easy to use and very intuitive, if the game isn't fun, then what's the point? So we believe we've achieved that, and we need you to come down and try it and tell us whether or not we've succeeded. So we'll see you at PAX. Bye.